The king of RC bashers is back and better than ever. This is the EXB version of the Kraton 6S BLX, and it's one of the highest spec Kratons you can buy, loaded with all the newest tech and updated parts to make it one of the most durable bashers you can buy. But it's not cheap. This high spec 8-scale basher sells for about $800 and it still requires the battery, but for the right RC enthusiast, it's definitely worth the money. So today, let's check it out, see how fast it is, and see what makes this basher better than ever. Now, the Kraton has always been a top dog in RC for its large 8-scale size and 6S power, giving it the ability to tackle almost any terrain, and in a rather sporty way thanks to how wide and low it sits. It's super tough too, but definitely had its weak spots before, but now with the V6 version, a lot of that has been addressed. Now, at first appearances, the most obvious update has just been the clipless body fastening system that uses a clip on the front and rear end that snaps into body posts on the chassis. This system looks clean, it's secure as well, but it's pretty dang tight when it's brand new. I'm guessing the springs underneath will break in and become easier over time. Now, the body colors come in a similar dark, sinister coloring that the old EXB came in, but one thing that's new are the body supports are now attached to the underneath of the body cab, where before that support was a part of the chassis. And those supports now attached to the roof, where we have plastic skid plates that'll help protect you when you slide on the lid. This new support is also just smaller. It's less parts, it's less weight, and removing it from the chassis makes it easier to do work in here. Now, with the body off, you get a look at this chassis and just how beautiful it is inside, specced out with so many red anodized aluminum parts. Now, thanks to its EXB spec, it comes with things like the 775 T6 machined aluminum chassis in black anodize. It has the CNC 775 T6 aluminum front shock tower in red anodize, and then the CNC 775 T6 aluminum rear shock tower in red anodize, and also the CNC 775 T6 aluminum steering rack in red anodize. This truck also comes with the CNC aluminum gearbox housings in the front and rear in a red anodize. It also has aluminum center chassis braces, anodized red in the front and rear as well. It also includes the aluminum front gearbox suspension holder in red, the aluminum front upper suspension mount in red. It has the aluminum threaded shock bodies. They're a 16mm bore, also in red. And then all those shocks are the EXB shock caps. They're aluminum in black. And then last for the aluminum is the servo mount, also in anodized red. This truck also has the EXB HD differentials with the EXB spec diff out drives. Now, buying all those parts separately to upgrade a standard Kraton would cost hundreds of dollars, significantly more than just buying the EXB spec to start with. And all of these parts on this EXB were included on the previous EXB as well. Nothing has changed there. Now, as far as the parts that have changed, we talked about the clipless body fastening system, but with that are the new body posts. These body posts are beefy, they're a one-piece design, and one thing about them is they're not height adjustable like the old body posts were. So if you want to change the body, you're going to need to go buy the older body posts and the post mounts separately. Another new item are these taller side guards. These are new, they're a one-piece design. Previously they were two-piece, so it's a little bit easier doing maintenance and removing parts. There's also a new heavy-duty battery strap. This is made from aramid fibers that should hold up a lot better than the previous straps because sometimes those would break or snap during heavy hits. The new truck also comes equipped with a new stainless steel rear skid plate that'll help protect that expensive aluminum chassis because they tend to wear out back here from slapping the ground. The wire holder for the motor has this clothespin design. It's now captured with a screw to keep it shut and the wires can't rattle out. The ball ends on the turnbuckles have also been updated on both the steering and rear camber links. These plastic ends are a little beefier and they use a different outer ball inside too. And then for the bigger updates to make this truck more durable are one, the new steering blocks that use this screwed on cap to the steering block to secure in the pivot ball. This new style shouldn't need adjusting. It doesn't require any large hex sizes. They won't back out and they should be a lot more user friendly. And then 2, those new steering blocks use a new larger inner bearing size. Finally, after years of using the original size bearing, which was a little bit smaller, thinner, and shorter, it was just more prone to falling apart after a while. So they've updated that bearing to be bigger and wider, and that's incorporated into those new steering blocks. And to go along with that larger inner bearing, there's new updated rear hubs that also incorporate that larger inner bearing. There's also one other update, and it's the new firmware for the ESC. It's supposed to make the unit a bit punchier and more powerful, but overall the electronics are pretty standard. You have the 2050 kV motor at 6S with a clamp-on heatsink and then a 35mm fan. The ESC is 150 amp and it's got 2 IC5 connectors with 1 jumper included if you only want to use 1 battery. And then the servo is the S665 Metal Gear servo. It comes with a metal horn. It's waterproof, and it's been set in the BEC to 7.4 high voltage, and it outputs about 280 ounce-inches of torque, which is pretty impressive. One last thing we wanted to add before we drive this is a chassis protector that Upgrade RC makes. These are pre-cut. They're easy to install. You just take off the skid plate, stick it on, and then poke the holes for the skid plate screws. That could have been real bad. 64. It could be 64.8. I mean, who knows? It's pretty much 65. Seemed like it was pulling really hard one way. Our rear diff is not working. So taking apart the diff, our sun gear here should have these little pieces back here attached. They were loose and just floating. And then the washers that sit behind that sun gear are cone shaped. They should be flat. We're just gonna start fresh. We got brand new gears. We bought a new shim set, and then we picked up some fresh 80,000 diff fluid, which is what this truck uses in the front and rear. So it's kind of particular how this spacer and then the gear sits on top. Even the shim below this spacer, it's all designed to fit really nice together and seated really tight. My guess is when the diff was assembled, it wasn't seated quite properly, which caused there to be some binding blowing out the backside of this gear. We have a boo-boo. Our ball end cracked right here. Oh, we lost our dog bone. No! Now the truck came falling from way up there right on the corner of the wheel. The whole left side kind of looks like it smushed in on the truck, and breaking just the ball end is the best possible outcome because that's cheap to replace, and that's a lot better than breaking some other really expensive part. And landing the truck from these really high up jumps is hard on the truck, so I think this is a good example of just how durable the truck is. So sadly, we don't have in stock the new ball ends, so these are the previous version sold in this whole set, and I'm hoping this will work. And then we also had to get the dog bones. So I'm gonna put a little grease on these threads. Rod end just goes on there a little bit easier. As you guys can probably tell, the Kraton EXB is just an awesome basher. It is fast, it did nearly that 65 miles an hour. You can drive it hard, it pulls wheelies no problem, it jumps, it backflips well, and it lands from big jumps really well too, thanks in part to that 1300 CST shock fluid that's in the front and rear shocks. And when you land it from big jumps, it just kind of bounces on the surface. It's really pillowy. The truck certainly can take a beating and come back for more. We crashed it so many times and it recovered from everything except for when we broke that plastic ball end. The chewed up differential, I really don't think that was our fault. I think there was an issue when the diff was built, which can happen. And of all the Kratons we've reviewed, this is the first time that's ever happened. But diff issues in RC cars just kind of happen sometimes. So overall though, the Kraton 6S EXB ready to run would be my go anywhere basher for almost any situation as my daily driver for some full throttle RC therapy. It is an absolute blast. One of the best bashers you can buy, and probably my personal favorite basher as well. So guys, go check out the Kraton 6S EXB with our links down below, and if you want more RC videos, check these out.